Welcome to our channel HD Rare Coin 111, your go-to spot for uncovering the incredible world of rare US coins. If you've ever wondered if your old pennies, nickels, or dimes are worth more than face value, you're about to find out. In today's video, we'll be exploring some truly rare coins and their shocking values. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. So let's jump in. Top 1. Today, we're taking a deep and fascinating dive into a coin that millions of people have seen, used, and probably forgotten about. But the 1968 Lincoln 1-cent penny is no ordinary piece of pocket change. Behind its copper shine lies a story of legacy, rarity, and hidden value that could shock even the most seasoned collectors. Let's rewind the clock to 1968, a year of great change and unrest in the United States. The country was in the middle of the Vietnam War, the civil rights movement was at its peak, and Americans were grappling with profound social, political, and economic shifts. It was the year Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy were assassinated, the year Apollo 7 launched into orbit, and the year protest and progress went hand in hand. In the background of all this, the U.S. Mint was carrying out its own silent duty, producing coins for a nation in motion. Among those coins was the Lincoln 1-cent penny, a humble copper piece already steeped in history. First issued in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, this penny was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. By 1968, the Lincoln cent had been in circulation for nearly 60 years and remained a trusted staple in American currency. The obverse side bore Lincoln's familiar profile, surrounded by the words, "In God we trust, liberty," and the date, 1968. The reverse still displayed the iconic wheat ears, unless it was a memorial reverse depending on the minting, signifying unity, strength, and remembrance. But what sets the 1968 penny apart from the others? Why are collectors so fascinated by this year? And how could a single 1-cent coin be worth a life-changing amount of money? To begin with, the 1968 Lincoln penny was minted at 3 different facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia coins had no mint mark, Denver coins were marked with a D, and San Francisco coins carried an S mint mark. What's fascinating is that 1968 marked the return of the S mint mark after it was briefly removed in the early 1960s, making San Francisco coins from this year particularly notable to collectors. But mint mark alone isn't what makes the 1968 penny special. The true value lies in a combination of factors: rarity, condition, and minting errors. Let's talk about those errors first, because they're what every collector dreams of finding. In 1968, due to the incredibly high speed and volume of coin production, mistakes slipped through the cracks. Some coins were struck off-center, creating fascinating crescent-shaped blanks where the design didn't fully land on the coin. Others were double-struck, resulting in overlapping images and duplicated lettering that give the coin an eerie, almost ghost-like appearance. And then there are coins struck on the wrong type of planchet entirely, such as a penny minted on a dime blank, which not only changes the size but also the weight and composition. There's another rare variety that sends collectors into a frenzy: the 1968 S-double die obverse. This error shows distinct doubling in the words, liberty, and in God we trust, as well as in the date. These double die errors are a result of a misalignment during the die creation process, and they are incredibly valuable due to their rarity. If you happen to come across a 1968 penny with this kind of doubling, do not spend it, get it graded and protected immediately. But errors aren't the only thing that boosts value. Condition is everything in the world of coin collecting. Most coins from 1968 were circulated, handled, and tossed around for decades, making them scratched, worn, and dull. But a few escaped the harshness of circulation. These coins, known as mint state or uncirculated coins, were preserved in pristine condition. When professionally graded by services like PCGS or NGC, they can earn ratings such as MS65, MS66, or higher, placing them in the top percentile of surviving coins. And then there are the proof coins, produced in 1968 exclusively by the San Francisco Mint. These coins were struck using specially polished dies and carefully prepared blanks to create mirror-like finishes and incredible detail. They were never intended for everyday use. Instead, they were sold in collector sets and are often found in far better condition than regular circulation coins. A 1968 S-proof penny in perfect condition, especially with a deep cameo contrast, is a prized possession in any serious collection. Now here's where things get even more exciting. You see, collectors and treasure hunters across the country are constantly searching through coin rolls, flea markets, estate sales, and even pocket change in the hopes of stumbling upon a rare find. And it does happen. One day, someone finds a coin that looks ordinary, but isn't. And that's exactly what happened with one particular 1968 Lincoln penny. This coin had it all: perfectly preserved condition, flawless mint luster, no visible wear, and an eye-catching visual appeal that set it apart from the rest. Experts confirmed its authenticity, graded it among the finest known of its kind, and it was quickly recognized as a standout in the world of numismatics. When it went to auction, the excitement was palpable. Bidders competed from around the world. And in the end, the final price shattered expectations. That single 1-cent coin sold for an unbelievable total of $145,000. Yes, 1 penny. Worth $145,000. It's a reminder that hidden treasures still exist. That every old coin has a story. And that sometimes, in the most unexpected places, history and fortune come together in a flash of copper and memory. So before you toss aside that old penny or let it vanish into the depths of a coin jar, take a closer look. Because that tiny piece of metal in your hand just might be the key to something unforgettable. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of the 1968 Lincoln penny, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more incredible coin stories, and tap the bell so you don't miss a single episode. Share your coin finds in the comments. We love hearing about the hidden gems in your collection. And remember, the next big discovery might already be in your pocket. Top 2. We're going on a deep dive into one of the most overlooked coins in American currency, the 1971 Lincoln 1-cent penny. This little coin, a staple of wallets, lunch counters, and sidewalks across the country, holds secrets that many people have never noticed. But for collectors, this coin might just be the key to something remarkable. Let's begin with the time period. The year was 1971. America was in the middle of an era marked by transformation. The Vietnam War continued, anti-war protests were everywhere, and space exploration was pushing human boundaries with the recent success of Apollo 14. Music was dominated by Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones, and the cultural revolution of the 60s was spilling over into a new, uncertain decade. And in the background of all that, the United States Mint was carrying out its duty, quietly striking billions of coins, including a sea of humble 1-cent pieces. Among them was the 1971 Lincoln penny. Now, on the surface, this coin might seem unremarkable. The design hadn't changed much in decades. On the front, or obverse, you've got the timeless bust of President Abraham Lincoln, facing right. It's surrounded by the words, "In God We Trust." At the top, Liberty, on the left, and the date, 1971, on the right. The reverse still features the Grand Lincoln Memorial, centered with United States of America above it, and 1 cent, boldly displayed below. Below the monument, you might notice the initials, FG. Those belong to Frank Casparo, the designer of the reverse. But let's be clear, not all 1971 pennies are created equal. This coin was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia version has no mint mark, while Denver's bears a small D, and San Francisco coins, primarily proof strikes, carry an S. With over 5 billion pennies struck that year, you'd think the 1971 penny would be too common to care about. But rarity isn't always about how many were made, it's about how many survived in the right way. So what sets certain 1971 Lincoln cents apart from the rest? It starts with condition. The vast majority of these coins went straight into circulation, passed through countless hands, lived in pockets, change drawers, and vending machines. Most were scuffed, worn down, and lost their original shine within months. But a tiny number, just a handful, escaped that fate. These were never circulated. They were preserved from the moment they left the mint, stored safely in mint sets, protective rolls, or collector's albums. These coins, when professionally graded, can reach stunning grades like MS-66, MS-67, or even higher. When you find a 1971 penny in mint state condition, especially with full red luster and no scratches or dings, that's when things start to get interesting. That's when collectors start paying attention. Now, let's talk about errors, the kind of beautiful mistakes that transform a regular coin into a collector's dream. During the minting process, anything can happen. Sometimes, a penny is struck off-center, with part of the design missing. Other times, it may be double-struck, creating a blurry or shadowed appearance. A particularly valuable type of error is the doubled die, where parts of the design appear doubled due to misalignment during the die creation process. A doubled die on the obverse of a 1971 Lincoln penny, especially one showing doubling on Liberty, or the date, is incredibly rare and highly valuable. And then there are the proof coins from the San Francisco Mint. These weren't intended for circulation. They were struck with special care, using polished dies and carefully prepared planchets to produce mirror-like finishes and razor-sharp details. If you have a 1971 S-proof penny that's been kept in pristine condition, with strong cameo contrast, you could be holding something far more valuable than it looks. One lesser-known detail about the 1971 penny that excites numismatists is the existence of high-grade red specimens, meaning the coin has retained its original copper-red tone. Over time, most pennies develop a darker, brownish hue due to oxidation. But those few coins that maintain their vibrant red color, without any signs of wear, are significantly more desirable, and far rarer. But here's where the magic happens. Every once in a while, someone comes across a coin that breaks the mold. Maybe it sat untouched in a coin collection for decades. Maybe it was forgotten in a bankroll stored in a dusty attic. Or maybe it's been hiding in plain sight in a jar on a kitchen counter. And when that coin is discovered, graded, verified, and authenticated, it can turn into a story that stuns the collecting world. That's exactly what happened with one particular 1971 Lincoln 1-cent penny. This was no ordinary coin. It was in mint state, with a brilliant red finish, flawless surface, and virtually no imperfections. Experts examined it, grading services confirmed it, and collectors quickly realized they were looking at one of the finest known examples of this coin. When it finally made its way to auction, the bidding wasn't slow, it was explosive, and in the end, that single penny, just 1 cent in face value, sold for an incredible total of $125,000. Yes, you heard that right. A 1971 Lincoln penny, just like the ones we see every day, sold for $125,000. So, the next time you come across a penny from 1971, don't just pass it off as pocket change. Take a closer look. Examine the condition. Check the mint mark. Look for doubling, unusual color, or any sign that this might be more than just copper and zinc. Because buried in old coffee cans, loose change jars, and forgotten bank rolls, there are still treasures waiting to be found. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of rare coins. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Share your own coin discoveries in the comments below. We love hearing your stories. And remember, sometimes, the smallest piece of change can carry the biggest value. Top 3. Today's spotlight is on a coin you've probably seen countless times, the 1972 Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it's a simple piece of copper, a routine coin that has passed through millions of hands. But the truth is, this particular year holds one of the most fascinating, surprising, and valuable stories in all of American coinage. So, let's step back in time to 1972. America was changing fast. The Vietnam War was still underway. Richard Nixon was president, and Watergate was just around the corner. The space race was in full gear, Atari was on the rise, and the world was shifting toward the digital age. But as Americans filled their tanks with gas at 55 cents a gallon and paid for groceries with paper bills and coins, they didn't know that one of those tiny copper coins, the Lincoln penny minted that very year, would become the focus of intense interest for collectors decades later. The Lincoln cent had already been a mainstay in U.S. currency since 1909. Originally introduced to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. Its design was iconic, the bust of Lincoln on the front, calm, stoic, and instantly recognizable. Surrounding him were the phrases, "In God we trust, liberty," and the date, 1972. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stood tall and strong, with "United States of America" arched above it, and 1 cent boldly struck below. Millions of these coins were produced by the U.S. Mint in 3 different facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia bear no mint mark, those from Denver show a small D, and San Francisco coins are marked with an S, usually indicating proof coins made especially for collectors. But with over 5 billion pennies minted that year, you might ask, what could possibly make one of them worth more than a house today? The answer lies in a mix of fascinating factors: rare minting errors, pristine condition, and something that shook the world of coin collecting, the doubled die obverse. Yes, the most famous and valuable version of the 1972 Lincoln penny is the doubled die obverse variety. This is not just any error. It's the kind of mistake that only happens when the die used to strike the coin's design is accidentally engraved twice, misaligned slightly between each impression. The result? The text on the front of the coin appears doubled, especially in the words, "In God we trust, liberty," and the date, 1972. And it's not subtle. It's visible to the naked eye, even without magnification. This error wasn't caught right away, and by the time collectors realized what had happened, some of these pennies had already made it into circulation. Today, finding a true 1972 doubled die penny is like striking gold. But that's not the only variation that makes this year special. Some 1972 pennies have off-center strikes, where the design is pushed to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. Others were double-struck, creating a dramatic visual effect where the design appears twice. There are even examples of the coin being struck on the wrong type of planchet, making the coin either too light, too small, or showing unusual coloration. Each of these errors increases the rarity and value of the coin dramatically. Condition is another critical piece of the puzzle. Most 1972 pennies were heavily circulated, dropped in vending machines, exchanged in stores, and rattled around in pockets for decades. That means the vast majority are scratched, faded, and worn down. But the rarest and most valuable coins are those that somehow remained untouched, stored safely in mint sets, coin rolls, or private collections. These coins, when graded by professionals, can achieve designations like MS-66 or MS-67, meaning they are in near-perfect condition. And then we have the proof coins, struck in San Francisco with an S mint mark. These are some of the sharpest, most detailed examples of the 1972 penny, created for collectors using special dies and highly polished blanks. A 1972 S-proof penny with deep cameo contrast, preserved in flawless condition, can also bring in serious interest from collectors. But what really turns heads is when one of these factors, like a doubled die or pristine uncirculated condition, appears in a single coin. That's when you have something truly extraordinary. A coin that looks like every other penny on the outside, but on closer inspection, holds a secret worth thousands. And believe it or not, one such 1972 Lincoln penny was discovered not long ago. It was an exceptional piece, featuring the now famous doubled die obverse, preserved in mint state, with its brilliant red copper color still shining as if it were just minted. Experts quickly identified it, authenticated it, and graded it at one of the highest levels ever recorded for this variety. When it finally hit the auction block, collectors knew this wasn't just any old penny. It was a masterpiece of American minting history. The final price shocked everyone. That single 1972 Lincoln 1-cent penny sold for an unbelievable total of $115,000. Yes, you heard that right. 1 penny, 1 cent in face value, traded hands for $115,000. This is why the world of coin collecting remains so exciting. It's about more than just metal and numbers. It's about discovery, history, preservation, and the thrill of uncovering something rare. So the next time you're handed a few pennies with your change, or you open an old coin jar, take a moment to really look. Because hiding in that handful of copper might be a story waiting to be told, and a fortune waiting to be found. Thank you for watching and taking this journey through time with the 1972 Lincoln penny. If this video amazed you, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more incredible coin stories, and ring the bell so you're first to know when the next one drops. Share your coin discoveries in the comments. We love hearing from fellow collectors and treasure hunters. Until next time, keep looking closely, because your next penny might just be worth more than you ever imagined. Top 4. We're going to shine a spotlight on a small, copper-colored coin you've likely seen, spent, or saved in a drawer at some point, the 1977 Lincoln 1-cent penny. You might be thinking, it's just a penny. But the truth is, this specific year has produced coins that have surprised collectors, stunned auction houses, and in one case, earned a value that most people would never imagine for a coin worth just 1 cent on its face. Let's rewind to 1977. It was a dynamic year in American culture and politics. Jimmy Carter had just become president. The first Apple II computers were hitting the market, changing the face of technology. Star Wars premiered in theaters, revolutionizing cinema forever. Disco was king, gas was just over 60 cents per gallon, and the average new car cost less than $4,000. The United States Mint, meanwhile, was doing what it had done for generations, quietly producing millions of coins for everyday commerce, including the trusted Lincoln penny. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for nearly 70 years by then. Originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it featured his profile on the obverse, a dignified portrait facing right, surrounded by "In God We Trust" along the top, Liberty on the left, and the year, 1977, stamped clearly to the right. Flip the coin over, and you'd see the striking Lincoln Memorial, framed by United States of America at the top, and the denomination, 1 cent, boldly at the bottom. Frank Gasparo's design was simple, strong, and deeply American. But what makes the 1977 penny stand out in a sea of billions? Let's start with minting locations. In 1977, Lincoln cents were minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, with a small d, and San Francisco, with an S for proof coins. Combined, these facilities struck more than 8 billion pennies. So yes, it was a common coin, but hidden within this massive production run are examples that are anything but ordinary. The magic happens when we look deeper, at condition, errors, and rare variations that make certain 1977 pennies astronomically more valuable than the average. First, let's talk about condition. A typical 1977 penny you find in change today will be brown, worn, and full of tiny scratches from decades of circulation. But some coins, through luck or careful storage, have survived in pristine, mint-state condition. These uncirculated examples have sharp details, full original luster, and no signs of wear. When submitted to a grading service like PCGS or NGC, these coins can receive designations like MS65, MS66, or even MS67. The higher the grade, the fewer of its kind exist, and the higher its value can climb, sometimes dramatically. Then there are the proof coins, which were struck in limited numbers at the San Francisco Mint using highly polished dies and planchets. These coins were made not for circulation, but for collectors. Their mirror-like surfaces and frosted details make them some of the most beautiful examples of the Lincoln cent ever created. A flawless 1977 S-proof with deep cameo contrast can command impressive prices, especially if it's been preserved in near-perfect condition. But condition and aesthetics are just the beginning. What really sends collectors into a frenzy are mint errors, the rare, often unintentional mistakes that slip through the mint's strict quality control. And 1977 saw its share of errors that turned ordinary pennies into extraordinary treasures. Some 1977 pennies were struck off-center, where part of the coin's design is missing and a blank crescent of metal is visible. Others show signs of being double-struck, where the die hit the coin more than once, causing ghosted or overlapping images. There are also die cracks, die clashes, and broad strikes, each creating a one-of-a-kind appearance. And then there are coins struck on the wrong planchet, like a penny minted on a dime or foreign coin blank, resulting in unusual weight, color, and dimensions. One of the most sought-after and dramatic varieties is the doubled die. While the most famous doubled die Lincoln cent is from 1955, examples have shown up in later years as well. Any doubling on the lettering, especially on Liberty, the motto, In God We Trust, or the date, 1977, can instantly turn a plain penny into a rare collectible worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Now here's where the story gets truly exciting. Not long ago, a coin collector stumbled upon a 1977 Lincoln penny that appeared different. At first glance, it looked like any other coin. But under magnification, the details were flawless. The fields were smooth, the strike was sharp, and the color had that fiery red brilliance that only the finest copper coins possess. The collector knew it was special and sent it off for grading. What came back shocked even the most experienced numismatists. The coin received an MS-67 red designation, an almost unheard-of grade for a business strike coin from this year. It was one of the highest-graded 1977 pennies ever recorded. And when it eventually went to auction, the buzz in the collecting world was electric. Bidders knew this was not just a penny. It was a historical artifact in nearly perfect condition. And when the gavel finally fell, the results were nothing short of astonishing. That 1-cent coin, minted in 1977, tucked away for decades, and carefully preserved, sold for a jaw-dropping total of $100,000. Yes, 1 penny. Worth $100,000. This is the magic of numismatics. It's not about how much the coin was worth when it was made, it's about what it's become through time, rarity, and preservation. It's about the thrill of discovery, the excitement of history, and the joy of realizing that something so small could hold so much meaning and value. So the next time you get a handful of change, don't rush to drop it in a jar or spend it without a second glance. Take a moment to look. You never know when you might be holding a coin with a hidden story, a rare error, or an untold fortune. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of the 1977 Lincoln penny. If you found this video as fascinating as we did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more amazing coin stories, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Share your own coin finds in the comments. We'd love to hear what treasures you've discovered. And remember, the next valuable coin might be hiding right in your pocket. Top 5. We're digging into a small but powerful piece of American history, the 1980 Lincoln 1-cent penny. It may be just 1 cent in face value, but this particular coin could carry a value far beyond what meets the eye. And in some rare cases, it has shocked collectors and turned heads at major auctions. So, before you toss that next penny aside, you'll want to hear what makes the 1980 edition so special. Let's take a moment to set the scene. The year is 1980. America is experiencing a major cultural and economic shift. Ronald Reagan is about to be elected president. Inflation is rising, the Cold War is still simmering, and people are lining up at arcades to play Pac-Man for the first time. Technology is beginning to creep into households with personal computers, while the cost of living continues to climb. Amidst all of this, the U.S. Mint is continuing its massive operation, producing billions of coins, including, of course, the Lincoln 1-cent penny. Now by 1980, the Lincoln cent had already been a familiar presence in the pockets and purses of Americans for more than 70 years. First issued in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. On the obverse is the profile of Lincoln himself, serious, steady, and timeless. He's framed by the words, "In God We Trust." Above, Liberty, to the left, and the year 1980 to the right. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the grand image of the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of unity and national pride, designed by Frank Gasparo. At first glance, it's a simple design, but behind it lies an ocean of variation, value, and history. So, what is it about the 1980 penny that makes it worth talking about? To begin with, it was struck at 3 U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, which issued coins without a mint mark; Denver, which used the D mint mark; and San Francisco, which primarily struck proof coins with an S mark. In total, billions of 1980 pennies were made. That sheer number might make you think they're all common. But rarity isn't just about how many were made, it's about how many were preserved in the right way and with the right features. One of the first things collectors look for is condition. Most 1980 pennies have spent years being circulated, worn down, scratched, and oxidized until they've lost their original luster. But a select few survived untouched, sealed away in coin rolls, mint sets, or collector albums. These are the coins that still shine with their original red color, the ones that look just as they did the day they left the mint. When these coins are sent in for grading and receive high marks like MS-65, MS-66, or even MS-67, their value climbs sharply. Now, what really takes a 1980 penny from collectible to exceptional is when you throw mint errors into the mix. Errors can happen during the minting process, and although rare, they can significantly increase the coin's worth. One error that's particularly sought after is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank is misaligned during the strike, leaving part of the design missing and a portion of the surface blank. These coins look unusual and are highly collectible, especially if the date is still visible. Another exciting variety is the broad strike error, where the collar that normally shapes the coin's edge fails, allowing the metal to spread outwards. This results in a coin that looks larger than usual with a smooth, flat edge. Then there's the double strike, where a coin is hit more than once by the die, creating overlapping images or ghost-like impressions. And let's not forget die clashes and die cracks, both of which can give the coin unique textures or extra lines in the design that weren't supposed to be there. Perhaps the most exciting errors of all are those involving the wrong planchet. Imagine finding a 1980 penny that was mistakenly struck on a dime blank, or even on a foreign coin planchet. These mistakes are extremely rare, and collectors will pay handsomely for them. Then there are the proof coins, struck in limited numbers at the San Francisco Mint. These coins were made with specially prepared dies and blanks, producing razor-sharp details and a mirror-like finish. A flawless proof from 1980, especially one graded PR 69 or higher, can bring in hundreds of dollars depending on the market. If it has cameo or deep cameo contrast, the value goes even higher. But all of that, condition, mint location, error types, it all comes down to one thing: rarity combined with quality. And every now and then, one of these 1980 Lincoln pennies shows up in the perfect storm of both. Not long ago, a coin expert came across a 1980 Lincoln cent that was unlike any other. It had the unmistakable red copper glow of an uncirculated coin. Its details were crisp, and under magnification, it showed no signs of wear or handling. It was then revealed to also possess a rare error, possibly a double die or struck on the wrong planchet. It was examined, authenticated, and professionally graded. The results placed it in the upper echelon of coins from that year, one of the finest known examples. When it was placed on the auction block, the bids came fast and high. Collectors from around the country, and even internationally, wanted a piece of this extraordinary coin. And when the auction closed, it had achieved something incredible. That single 1-cent coin from 1980 sold for a staggering total of $90,000. Yes, you heard that right. 1 penny, 1 coin from an ordinary year, changed hands for $90,000. This is why coin collecting remains one of the most fascinating hobbies in the world. Every coin has a story, and sometimes, that story includes untold value. So the next time you find a penny from 1980 in your spare change, don't overlook it. Check for its color, its condition, any unusual features. It might look like every other penny, but hidden within its copper shell could be a legacy worth more than you ever imagined. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of coins, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more incredible coin stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a hidden gem. Got a coin story of your own? Drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear what treasures you've found. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of a penny. Top 6. We're diving deep into a year that most people wouldn't think twice about, a year that produced a simple penny most would overlook. But what if I told you that a 1981 Lincoln 1-cent penny, yes, just a regular-looking penny, might be one of the most valuable coins hiding in plain sight? Let's rewind for a moment and step into the year 1981. America was in a state of transition. Ronald Reagan had just taken office, the economy was recovering from a turbulent decade, and pop culture was being redefined with the rise of MTV, arcade games, and blockbuster movies. In the midst of all this excitement, the United States Mint was doing what it had done for generations, producing billions of coins, including one of the most iconic, the Lincoln cent. Now, the Lincoln penny had already been in circulation for over 70 years by 1981. Introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. On the obverse side, Lincoln's profile is surrounded by the words, "In God We Trust." At the top, Liberty, to the left, and the date, 1981, on the right. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, standing tall and proud, with United States of America above and 1 cent, boldly at the bottom. At first glance, the 1981 penny looks like every other one. But here's where things start to get interesting. This year marked the final full year that Lincoln cents were made entirely from 95% copper. Just 1 year later, in 1982, the composition would change to a copper-plated zinc core, due to rising metal costs. That means 1981 was the end of an era, a subtle but significant detail that gets collectors' attention. So how many of these 1981 pennies were made? An astounding number. The Philadelphia Mint, which struck coins without a mint mark, produced over 7.4 billion of them. The Denver Mint, using a small D mint mark, added another 5.5 billion. And the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins marked with an S for collectors. With over 13 billion pennies made that year, it might seem impossible that any single one could be rare or valuable. But not all coins are created equal, even when they share the same year. Let's talk about what makes a 1981 Lincoln cent truly valuable. The first factor? Condition. Most of these pennies have spent the last 4 decades rattling around in jars, pockets, and vending machines. They're scratched, worn, and discolored. But a small number have been carefully preserved since the day they were struck. These coins, untouched by circulation, are known as mint state coins. When graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, high grades such as MS66 or MS67 dramatically boost a coin's appeal and value. But condition is only part of the story. What really grabs collectors' attention are errors and varieties, the unexpected quirks that slip through the cracks of the minting process. And the 1981 penny is no stranger to errors. One of the most famous types of mint error is the doubled die, where a coin's design elements, like the date, lettering, or Lincoln's face, appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. While 1981 doesn't have a famously known doubled die like 1955 or 1972, there are examples of minor doubling that still command significant attention. Another intriguing error is the off-center strike, where the coin is not properly aligned during striking, leaving part of the design cut off. The more off-center the strike, especially with the date still visible, the rarer and more valuable the coin. Then there's the broad strike, where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out, appearing slightly larger and without a defined rim. One of the most exciting and rarest errors is when a penny is struck on the wrong planchet, for example, on a dime or foreign coin blank. These coins weigh less or look slightly different, and their oddities make them prized collector's items. The 1981 S-proof pennies are another story altogether. These coins were never meant for circulation and were made with special care, mirror-like finishes, frosted designs, and incredible detail. A perfect deep cameo proof in flawless condition is a collector's dream. But even among proofs, there are variations, like the Type 1 and Type 2 Minmark styles from that year. Type 2, with a clearer and more refined S, is rarer and more sought after. Now let's go back to one very specific coin. One that a collector found sealed away for years, forgotten in a plastic roll, untouched by time. This coin, a 1981 Lincoln cent, had it all: perfect surfaces, brilliant red copper color, and the gleam of a freshly minted coin. It was sent in for grading and came back with a remarkable score, MS 67 red. A nearly flawless coin from a sea of billions. But that wasn't all. Upon further inspection, it also showed signs of a unique mint error, perhaps a subtle doubling on the obverse, or a small planchet anomaly that made it a standout specimen. Whatever the reason, the coin was deemed one of the finest known examples of its kind. When it hit the auction block, seasoned collectors knew exactly what they were looking at, and when the final bid came through, it was more than a surprise. It was a moment that proved once again just how valuable even the smallest coin can be under the right circumstances. That 1981 Lincoln 1-cent penny sold for an unbelievable total of $85,000. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent sold for $85,000. And this is why coin collecting continues to fascinate so many people. It's not about how much money you spend, it's about what you find, what you know, and what you're willing to look closely at. It's about the stories behind the coins, the rare errors, the perfect conditions, and the thrill of the hunt. So before you toss that next penny into a tip jar or ignore the pile of change in your car, take a moment to look. Really look. Because among the billions of coins minted every year, there are a few that slip through the cracks of history and end up becoming legends. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any future discoveries. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever found a rare penny? Do you check your change? You never know, the next great find could be sitting in your pocket right now. Top 7. We're turning our attention to a tiny piece of history that many people overlook, a coin so common, it's almost invisible. But what if I told you that the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin you've probably passed over 1,000 times, holds one of the most fascinating and valuable stories in all of American coin collecting? You might want to grab your coin jar and start looking closely, because what you're about to discover could change the way you see every penny you touch. Let's rewind to 1982, a year of massive change not just in the world, but in the very composition of the penny itself. Ronald Reagan was in office, Michael Jackson's Thriller was about to drop, and personal computers were just starting to enter American homes. But at the United States Mint, a quiet revolution was taking place, one that would forever divide the 1982 penny into two very different categories, making it one of the most unique years in U.S. coinage history. So, what exactly happened in 1982? For decades, the Lincoln penny had been made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it that familiar reddish tone and a substantial weight in your hand. But by the early 1980s, the price of copper had skyrocketed. It had become so expensive that the metal in each penny was actually worth more than 1 cent. The Mint had to act, and fast. So in 1982, they made a huge change. Midway through the year, they switched to a new composition, 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating. The result was a penny that looked nearly identical to its predecessor, but weighed noticeably less. The copper pennies came in at 3.11 grams, while the new zinc ones weighed just 2.5 grams. Same design, same year, different metal, and that's just the beginning. Because of this transition, 1982 is the only year in U.S. history where both copper and zinc pennies were produced, making it a true turning point in numismatic history. But it gets even more complicated, because within this 1 year, the Mint produced 7 different varieties of the penny, including both large and small date styles. That's right, 1982 wasn't just the year of a metal change, it was also the year of font changes and design modifications. And each of these varieties is a story in itself. Let's break them down. 1. 1982 copper large date 2. 1982 copper small date 3. 1982 zinc large date 4. 1982 zinc small date 5. 1982 D copper large date 6. 1982 D zinc large date 7. 1982 D zinc small date. Now, most of these varieties are relatively easy to find in circulated condition, especially if you know how to weigh them and identify the date style. But one particular version of the 1982 penny has risen to legendary status in the coin world: the 1982 D small date struck on a copper planchet. According to the Mint's official records, Denver was only supposed to strike the new zinc composition in the small date style. But somehow, a few copper planchets got mixed in and were struck with the small date dies. These incredibly rare coins weren't supposed to exist, and yet, they do. Collectors who know what to look for use a precise digital scale to weigh each 1982 D penny they find. If it weighs around 3.11 grams and has a small date, that's a red flag that it might be one of the few 1982 D small date copper pennies ever discovered. And if you've got one, you're holding a true modern treasure. But the story doesn't stop at composition and design. Like all coins, condition matters deeply. A 1982 penny with a rare variety might fetch a few $100s in average shape. But a high-grade example, shiny, red-toned, perfectly struck, can be worth thousands. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate these coins for surface quality, luster, and detail. A grade of MS65 or higher can send the value soaring. Let's not forget error coins, which can also make a 1982 penny stand out. There have been discoveries of 1982 pennies with off-center strikes, die clashes, double dies, and even coins struck on foreign or experimental planchets. These errors are often one of a kind and fetch large sums depending on rarity and visual impact. And of course, for collectors of proof coins, 1982 offers something a little different. That year, the US Mint didn't produce any proof pennies for circulation sets. That means all 1982 pennies are business strikes, making the hunt for rare, high-grade examples even more exciting. Now, imagine this: a collector sits down one afternoon to sort through a box of old change. Among hundreds of ordinary pennies, something catches his eye. It's a 1982 D small date coin. Curious, he pulls out a scale, and to his shock, it weighs in at 3.11 grams. A copper penny. A small date. Could it be? He sends it off for grading and authentication. Weeks later, it comes back confirmed, one of only a handful of known 1982 D small date copper pennies in existence. And even better, it's in mint state condition, with a gleaming red surface and minimal flaws. When this coin finally reached auction, the buzz was instant. Collectors and investors alike knew they were looking at something special. Something almost mythological in the world of modern coins. The bidding war was fierce. And when the final hammer dropped, the coin had reached a stunning total of $80,000. Yes, one penny. Just one. Worth $80,000. This is why we love coins. It's not about how much they're supposed to be worth, it's about the history they hold, the stories they carry, and the chances they offer to those curious enough to look a little closer. The 1982 Lincoln cent isn't just a coin, it's a puzzle, a mystery, and a collector's dream all wrapped into one. And who knows? The next one could be hiding in your change jar right now. Thanks for watching. If you found this video fascinating, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more hidden stories from the world of coins. And if you've ever come across a strange 1982 penny, share it in the comments. We'd love to hear your discovery. Until next time, keep your eyes open, because sometimes the smallest treasures hold the biggest surprises.